So here's a wild thought. What if I told you that you, right at this very moment, just by existing, are a masterpiece? And I'm not talking about a metaphor, something you'd see on a motivational poster. I mean a literal work of art. Today, we are diving headfirst into one of modern art's most radical ideas, an idea sparked by a man who, funny enough, almost never took off his hat. And this is the quote that changes everything. It's 1983, and the artist Joseph Beuys is on live television, and he just drops this bombshell. No, he's not talking about painting a portrait of someone or making a sculpture of a person. No. He's saying the person is the art.
And that's really the crucial question, isn't it? We hear stuff like this all the time, and we think, oh, that's a lovely sentiment. But what happens when we take one of the 20th century's greatest artists at his word? Like, what if he meant it literally?
Okay, to really get this, we have to kind of throw out our old definitions of art. For Joseph Beuys, the canvas wasn't a physical thing you hang on a wall. It was society itself. He wasn't just trying to make art, he was trying to fundamentally change what the word art even means.
This was his big idea, the expanded art concept. He basically argued that the most powerful artistic material we have is our own creativity. A thought you have? That could be art. A conversation? Art. An act of social change? That could be a more profound work of art than any painting or sculpture. See, art escapes the gallery and just walks right out into life itself. And he breaks this down into two parts. First, there's private plastic, or private sculpture. Think of this as the inside job. It's the art of shaping your own consciousness, your ideas, your character. But then there's social plastic, or social sculpture. And that's when you take all that creativity and turn it outward to shape the world around you. So, Beuys laid out all this amazing theoretical groundwork. But for decades, this whole human as art idea, it remained mostly just that. An idea, a theory. And then a German art collective came along to take it to its most shocking, literal, and confrontational extreme. Meet the Joblin Factory, and they make this incredibly bold claim. They say they are the only ones truly finishing the work that Beuys started. They believe everyone else has been too timid, treating his world-changing idea like it was just some footnote in art history. But they're here to make it absolutely unavoidable. Now, of course, they weren't just operating in a vacuum. This idea of the human as art, it has a history. Decades earlier, way back in 1961, you had Tim Ulrich, who declared himself the first living artwork. Then in '69, Gilbert and George presented themselves to the world as the singing sculpture. So Beuys's statement in '83 was this powerful culmination of a whole movement, a movement that the Joblin Factory decided to just grab and run with. All right, so how exactly do you put a theory like this into practice? Well, for the Joblin Factory, the answer involves some, let's just say, unconventional materials. Their goal is to force you to see yourself as art, and they'll use anything at their disposal to get you there. Their works, called Memento multiples, use a whole range of provocative stuff. We're talking paintings made from actual salmon, accessories made from meat, books that mash up art and literature. But maybe their most direct and powerful tool is the simple mirror. Why? Well, because it instantly turns you, the viewer, into the subject of the artwork. You can't escape it. You're probably wondering, why the salmon? Why the meat? I know, it sounds pretty grotesque, but there's a really powerful idea behind it. The founder, Jacques Joblin, explains it like this. By confronting you with dead flesh, a salmon, a piece of meat, it forces you to become hyper-aware of your own living flesh. That dead material is just there to point back to the real art, you. And the Joblin Factory doesn't exactly wait for an invitation. They're famous for staging guerrilla exhibitions. At this huge art festival in Germany called Documenta, they just showed up, uninvited, and started handing out pocket mirrors and postcards to people. And then, suddenly, all these visitors catching their own reflections became unwitting participants. The entire festival population became the Joblin Factory's exhibition. Okay, let's bring this all back home. We've gone from a pretty radical idea by Joseph Beuys to a really confrontational art collective. But what does this actually mean for you and me, just walking around in our everyday lives? So let's just accept the premise for a minute. Let's suspend our disbelief and truly, seriously consider the possibility that every single person, no matter their job, their status, their background, is a living, breathing artwork. Well, if every person is a work of art, then vandalism is unthinkable, right?
Neglect becomes a crime? Every human, just by virtue of their existence, commands the exact same reverence we give a masterpiece in a museum. Suddenly, the concept moves way beyond art theory and becomes this radical ethical framework for all of humanity.
And this is where the whole idea leaves us. The Joblin factory completely flips the argument on its head. Maybe the challenge isn't proving that a person can be art. Maybe the truly radical idea, the one that changes everything, is that a person can never be anything else.